Hey, it is time again for our midweek microdose, where I share things that I find fun, funny, fascinating, and potentially life-changing. If you don't yet know me well, my name is Kayla Cohn. I'm a certified clinical hypnotherapist, mindset specialist, and psychedelics facilitator. And today I thought I'd talk about how, or let you know, maybe you don't realize, how much power you have, how much control you have over your reactions, how much control we all have over the way that we react or the way that we feel in a certain situation. So you might be saying to me, or you might be thinking to yourself, no, I don't have, there's no control. It all is 100% dependent upon, this jerk that does this or that person who cut me off, or, oh my gosh, I have to go to XYZ family members. And every time we're over there, this happens. And I have no control over that. I don't have any control over them. All I can do is react. So, and while that's true, you don't have any control over them and all you can do is react. What you can do is choose the way that you react. You can make a choice all the time, 100% of the time, in how you react to these situations. So it can feel like you don't have control because these things, well, the brain is a pattern making machine. So our brain's 100% most important job is to keep us safe all the time. And so what it does is it takes shortcuts. It's a little bit lazy. It wants to focus all of its time and attention on keeping us safe, which is amazing. Thank you so much, brain. Thank you, brain. So when we have these reactions in these different situations, it is because it's been conditioned or it's become habitual by our brain. Over time, our brain has had several different experiences and made this decision that when these set of circumstances are available, this is how I'm going to react. And that's great until it's not. So the good news about that is that things that have been conditioned and become habitual can become unconditioned and unhabituated. So that's really nice to know. And so what I would invite you to do is the next time, or maybe right now, if I feel like when we talk about these things, it's super easy. A lot of times these things just pop to mind about, oh yeah, every single time I run into that person from high school who bullied me and now pretends like nothing happens. I feel so angry and so pissed off, but I have to act really nice or whatever, right? So we all have these sort of experiences where we know that we react immediately and maybe in a way that we don't want to react anymore. And the way that you can do this on your own. So this is something that I work with in my clients with my clients in our one-on-one sessions all the time, where we spend a lot of time, understanding what these situations are and then teaching ways to, undo this conditioning and then create a new way that we want to respond. So something that you can begin to do just on your own is to think about how you want to feel instead. Think about how you want to react instead. So if you can go in your mind and in your body to the last time that you had an experience where you had an undesired response, where you responded in a way that you wish you wouldn't have. And so let's use this example of, oh my gosh, somebody from my past suddenly appeared in my current timeline. I was going along just fine, and then they came along, and all the stuff that I thought was all fine is now suddenly rushed to the surface again. Like I said, maybe they used to bully you or whatever, and you thought everything was all good, and you're a grown up now, and everything's great, and now you find yourself reacting in that same way that you used to. So what you can do is allow yourself to go back to that experience where in the moment you feel those feelings. It can be easier to practice this now when you're not actually in front of that person or in that situation, so that when the situation comes up, you're prepared. But sometimes it's great to go ahead and do it in the moment, in that situation. So for these purposes, because I'm trying so hard to keep these, succinct and quick and easy for you, just go back in your mind to the time most recently where you had the response that you no longer wish to have. And it might even be like, I don't even know how to respond. I don't even know what to do about this. I'm just, my mind's all over the place. Um, so go back to that, allow yourself to kind of feel that and name what that experience is like for you. And I don't mean like it's making me anxious or it's making me angry. Instead, I just encourage you to notice the sensations in your body. So what does that feel like? It might be like, oh, it's like a tightening in my chest or like a freezing in my arms, or I feel my shoulders go up, or those kinds of things. So what's the sensation like in your body? And then shake it off. Shake it off. You can get up, you can kind of move around, you can repeat your phone number backwards to yourself to just kind of get out of that state. And then when you've done that, I just like you to imagine how you want to feel instead. So that might be like, I want to feel really strong and confident. Or that might be like, I just want to feel neutral. I don't even want to give a shit. I don't want to care. I just want to feel neutral. So feel, tap into that feeling that you want to feel. So let's pretend like I just don't want to give a shit. That's what it is. So go into your body and what is it like when you just when you're just neutral, when it doesn't matter, when you just don't give a shit, when this person can tell you this stuff or they can appear, in your day or whatever and you're like, "Oh, hey, that's that person." For me, it's almost like I imagine it like when I'm driving down the street and I just pass some trees and it's like, oh, there goes those trees. I don't feel anything. I'm just neutral. It's like, oh, there's a tree by tree, or maybe not. Maybe I don't even really notice it. It's just like something passing, and later on, I'm like, oh yeah, I passed by that tree. Whatever. Anyway, so really get into the feeling of what does that feel like in your body right now in this moment. So if I just feel neutral, if I'm like, meh, I don't even care, not happy, not sad, just cruising along, passing a tree, and that's great. What does that feel like? And really get into, again, the sensations. It might feel like kind of a lightness or just an openness. You might notice that your shoulders are nice and relaxed. Maybe your head's kind of tilted. Notice maybe how you might have your hands if you're just like neutral, just the world's great, right? You're just cruising along. Really tap into what that feeling is like. Really notice what that's like. And then when you're feeling that fully, like, hell yeah, I just don't even give a shit. Like, doesn't even matter. That doesn't matter. Or whatever the feeling is that you've chosen, then you can, from that place, as that person, as that you that's just neutral and confident and calm and whatever those things are, now you can imagine seeing that person or getting that information, the news that you got that had you kind of, and then you can just kind of notice what's different. Sorry, excuse me. Just notice what's different. And for me, that can be like kind of like this lurching where it's like, oh, my normal, the way that I typically respond to that kind of wants to come up. But now I've got this other option. And that is again because the brain is used to making shortcuts. It's narrowed it down to just a certain number of options for the way that you can respond. And now all of a sudden we've introduced a new option. So you can loop this around however many times that you need to until you notice that the connections that had been there about, hey, this is how I respond in these situations, just begin to kind of break apart. And now all of a sudden you've got some other options available and you notice that you can begin to feel a little bit differently. So that's one way to kind of do it. And that's a great way. And I do that, like I said, a lot with my one on one clients. But another thing that you can just do is to just be like, I'm making a decision to experience this differently, to not give a shit. I'm making a decision to just not care. And I don't know if you've ever had the experience where maybe you're like in kind of an argument with somebody, maybe things are kind of intense and you're having this whole discussion, and then it's like something just comes over you, and it's like all of a sudden this whole situation is so ridiculous. Like, and maybe you start laughing, maybe they start laughing, and you're like, what are we even arguing about? This is ridiculous. We're arguing about, I don't know what, the crispiness of a baguette, right? I don't know, whatever we get all grumpy about. And that's totally okay. But we can also just make a decision to be different in that experience. And again, practice what that feels like. So when I get this piece of information, when I, get this news, or when I find out so and so's back in town and they were such a jerk to me, how do I want to feel about that? And just practice feeling that way over and over and over again until it becomes an automatic response so that your brain goes, oh, cool, this is how I can be instead. And so many people, I think you might be thinking, no, it's really difficult. I have to respond that way. Like I can't help it. It's just automatic. I can't help it. But I assure you that when you want to be different, you will. So when you want to make the decision about F that guy or F that gal or whatever, you can. It just might take a little bit of time, and that's totally okay because again, these are connections in our brain and communication to our body and all of that stuff. So these things become habituated. But I can't emphasize enough how very powerful you are, how very powerful you are, and that you have the power to let this all be different when you choose to. So If you walk by that person in town that used to be whatever, bully you or be an ass or you just generally don't like or whatever, you can in that moment make the decision to just feel the way that you want to feel instead. So you might feel that initial sort of reaction that you're used to having, whatever that might be. And then you can take a moment and say, now, just a second, how do I want to feel in this moment? How do I want to be in this moment? And then you put your body in that way. I want to be confident. I want to be open. I want to be whatever. I want to not give a shit. This is how I look when I don't give a shit. Whatever that looks like for you. And just practice that and let that be that way. And I promise you, every single time it gets easier and easier. And the super cool thing about making this decision is A, you begin to realize how really powerful you are, that you're not just stuck in this responsive way, that those people or those situations or whatever don't have control over you, that you, in fact, have control over them. And it's really, really incredibly powerful. So I was going to make a really brilliant point after that. I forgot what the other thing was. So that's super cool that you know that you can. Oh, I know what it was. So a lot of times these similar sort of situations, when we've had these reactions that are similar, begin to kind of lump together, where every time we have these similar situations, we react in kind of a similar way. Super cool thing about beginning to tease those out and change and make a decision to step into your power and decide how you want to be and who you want to be. When you make that decision for one of those experiences, very, very quickly, it goes out to all of those other experiences and they all begin to change. They all begin to turn into how you want to be instead. It's so incredible. It's almost like if you could imagine like a three-legged table. So each time you make a decision that, hey, this is how I'm going to react to this, or this is what I'm going to believe in this moment, it's like one leg goes out. And then the next time that happens, the next time you practice, a little bit of the next leg. And then pretty soon it's the second leg goes out until the whole entire thing comes tumbling down. And all of a sudden, you are in your power and you decide how you want to be and who you want to be and what bothers you and what doesn't. And that is the best way. It's incredible. It's the best way to be. And I'll just add that sometimes, so I do this work all the time. I do this with my clients, I do this with myself. And sometimes I just decide I want to be a whiny baby about stuff. Sometimes I'm just like, you know what? I want to be pissed about that, or I want to be angry at that person, or whatever. And that's okay too. The important thing to know is that you have a choice and you get to make that choice. And that is where the power is. So I really hope you give this a whirl. If you give it a whirl and you want to share what your experience was like, or if you just have questions like, what the heck does that mean? Or if you want to tell me that it's all dumb and whatever, and that you do something else, I'd love to hear your practices that help you to really step into the power that is always, always, always available to you. I always am loving to add these little tools to my toolkit as well. So I'd love your feedback. Let me know how this goes. And I hope you have a really incredible rest of your day.